All right, here we go. Well, hello there. Who are you guys? I feel like I need to introduce myself or reintroduce myself. I'm Brandon Reed. I'm with myfantasysportstalk.com, and this is my fantasy podcast. Welcome. I feel like we've been gone for so long because we have been gone for so long, taking a break and a hiatus because our main man, our editor-in-chief, our president, our head honcho, he forces us to call him the man. Well, he is the man, especially after this week. I don't have much room for talking, but he is Dan the Man. Schalk recently got married to the lovely Marissa Caruso, so now they are a partner. They're partners in crime. They're a union. She may even be sitting next to him, making sure she may be giving him the notes for the podcast. I don't know, so it's going to be a different experience. But Dan Schalk is my co-host. Welcome back to the States, man. Well, I guess you never really left the States, but welcome back to the podcast anyway. Glad to see you back, man.
Thank you. It's been a while, obviously. Anytime you take a month vacation, it's not a bad thing. It's just coming back to it is the tough part. But I'm awake, I'm alive, and I'm here to podcast.
And you basically went straight from Hawaii to Verizon, right? No break in between there.
Yeah, it was tough. New York and Hawaii time difference is 6 hours. So when I was working a 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift in New York, it was really like it felt like I was working 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. So it was tough. But I'm kind of getting into the swing of things. Been back for what feels a week now almost. Yeah, we actually arrived a week ago. Today we arrived home. So I'm ready to go.
I bet you are. Got a lot to talk about today, don't you? So we have been gone for a while, and Dan has been off for a little while with the wedding and honeymoon, and it's just been a busy time of year. So we're glad to be back with My Fantasy Podcast and myfantasysportstalk.com, and we really kind of wanted to stop in today and to just kind of touch base with you guys and let you know, hey, keep resubmitting those mailbag questions. That's why we're here. We haven't gone away. We've just been on a little bit of a break, but we're getting ready for the back end of the NFL season. We're halfway through the NFL season now, exactly. So we're ready to get you hyped up and ramped up and make those last minute moves for your fantasy football team and just kind of guide you through the back end of the NFL season. So we're back in full fledged. So whether it be fantasy related or just NFL related, send us your mailbag questions because we're ready and we're here to answer those questions and stir up debate. And we'll do another podcast soon. We'll drop another podcast talking NBA because, Dan, since you've been gone, the NBA season has started. And I don't know if you know, we're about 10 games into that already, too. So look for that podcast coming out soon as well. We'll talk a little NBA next, Dan. How do you feel about that? You been keeping up?
No, I really haven't. Hawaii does that to you. I watched a couple Lakers games, actually, in Hawaii, but that was about it. But I'm more excited about college basketball, and that starts tonight. It already has started if you're watching the basketball podcast, I guess. But I'm pumped up for that. And you and I are going to in Florida in a couple weeks with teams like Villanova, your hometown team, Memphis, Penny Hardaway, and what he's doing there. LSU, Florida State, Oklahoma State, and of course the team that I cover, Canisius, somehow miraculously appeared in this tournament. So I'm looking forward to them make a wave for themselves on a national scale like this. But we'll be down there and we'll be covering it on My Fantasy Sports Talk. So it's something I'm really looking forward to. I'm pretty sure you are as well. So that next podcast, that basketball specific podcast, is going to be one you're going to want to watch.
Can't wait. And also, on top of all that, all that's going on today, specifically Tuesday, November 6th, it's election day as well. But there's more important things to talk about because college basketball kicks off tonight. A couple of huge matchups, but we'll go into all that on the next podcast. So check that out as well if you're going to get your hoops fix for sure. College basketball variety and NBA variety. So, but we want to focus in on the NFL. and some fantasy football today. I'm not really in a great mood, Dan, because I didn't really think you'd come at me so hard bragging about this win here. I made you such a lovely anniversary or wedding video, a tribute to you. I got all the guys together, and then you go and treat me like this. First week back, and then boop, 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 slap me upside the head. My 8-0 record is gone, and I didn't expect that from you. I'm a little hurt by that.
I'm surprised. I mean, let's just let the audience know this Brandon Reed that we're getting right now on the podcast isn't the vicious Brandon Reed that we've come to know within the MFST writing community of all the writers on our message boards and things like that. Brandon comes and talks smack all day, all afternoon. That's all Brandon was doing. I'm the best. I have the greatest team. Literally writing out the word period as a period. And you mean business when you do that. So, and now it's this nice guy who took an L from me on Sunday and Monday, and it feels good. No longer undefeated. You can't have a perfect season, and when I beat you later on in a few weeks, it'll be even better.
Well, let me ask you this. Did I start this all today? Did I start this? Did I tag you in a Facebook post?
You started it on Thursday when you started making excuses for why you were going to lose that next week. So
no, it was actually Wednesday. And just like the rest of the season, I have accurately predicted things all year long. I'm top dog in our pick'em piece.
Yeah. You see that week I just put together?
I hadn't seen the numbers yet. I'm not scared. It didn't matter. I'm still top dog.
I lost 2 games.
But anyway, I told you I was going to lose. I told you I was going to lose, Dan. 3 of my 4 running backs are on bye weeks. I was totally crippled by the bye week.
Well, you shouldn't have running backs that are playing on the same team.
Well, if Carlos Hyde wouldn't have got traded, so now I got like 4 guys on the Jacksonville Jaguars, including But anyway, I told you I was going to lose because it wasn't a good week for me. First of all, my guys, Gurley and Tyreek Hill, were due for a letdown. Then I had no other backup running backs. I started LeGarrette Blount because I had no other choices. And I'm not going to spend these acquisitions. I know you want me to, but I'm not going to do that. As an 8-0 team, I don't need to do that. So I'm going to hold on to those acquisitions. So
that's going to come back to bite you.
Never. No, we still got a long way to go. The smartest move I may have made was picking up Malcolm Brown, the backup running back for the Los Angeles Rams. And you guys brought it up today without even me having to bring it up, that if they rest Todd Gurley, well, you know what? I still got Malcolm Brown.
You know what they're actually going to do? I thought about this after our talk, and what they're going to do is they're probably going to just both split time week 16. So you won't be able to play either one, and it's gonna screw you.
I will start both of them.
Good. That's good. I want you to.
I've got some other trades working right now because y'all made me so mad today. I'm proposing some few last minute deals here because I'm one piece away, and you know that.
You at least you're admitting you need something rather than being this perfect team, because you don't. You're not a perfect team, and obviously taking that L showed that to you. So.
No, it didn't. No, I knew all along I was one piece away from being an absolute dominant team, and I'm trying to make that acquisition. We'll see if it happens. But hey, man, I'm just like those Los Angeles Rams. 8-0. Everyone's got to lose, eventually. And I ride with the Rams. I ride with Todd Gurley, and I ride with the Rams defense. And they lost this week just like I did. So I'm not afraid of that. But if you were to judge right now, let's talk some real NFL football though. Are the Rams still not the favorite to win the Super Bowl in your eyes? Or are you gonna pull some Patriots garbage?
Well, Patriots are AFC. I mean, they have that basically under control. I don't think there's a team in the AFC that can really compete with them. Maybe the Chargers.
The Chargers, you're going to sit there and skip over the Chiefs. The Chiefs are clearly the best team in the AFC.
No, I don't. Listen, we see this from the Chiefs every year. They're always 6-1, 7.
With Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes.
Listen, I'm all about Patrick Mahomes. I like him. He was my number 1 quarterback in the draft, and I stood by him when other experts had him down their list. I know I compared him to my main man, Tony Romo. I love Patrick Mahomes, but he's kind of going to be like Tony in the playoffs, and you'll see that. And he's not going to see success in the playoffs right away. He's just not. So the Chiefs, they'll have home field advantage and won't do anything with it.
They have the most dynamic receiver, maybe second most, but I think he's exceeding Antonio Brown and Tyreek Hill. And Kareem Hunt has the play of the year to me in my eyes right now.
Listen, you were the Kareem Hunt hater last year, and
I was surprised. I didn't buy in right away, and you were correct. This year I wouldn't have had him top 5, but I definitely would want him on my team right now. But I'm just talking about play of the year. Did you see the hurdle he did last week into the end zone? Yep. That was play of the year to me.
Yeah.
Play of the year.
Did you know? Yeah, it was good. It was. But it's just what I said. They're in the playoffs. Andy Reid's a different coach. This time, I'm not sold on the Chiefs. It's the Patriots in the AFC in my mind, and yeah, the Rams, maybe the Saints, because I mean the Saints did show that they can beat the Rams, so I'm okay with them. Drew Brees, I think he is what he is. He doesn't age. He's like Brady. I like those veteran quarterbacks with experience in the playoffs. And we saw Jared Goff struggle last year in the postseason, had a great regular season. Maybe he's made that hump. So
you know who I do believe in? I do believe in Sean McVay. That's for damn sure. I definitely believe in the scheme they run and just the dynamic with Cooks and Cooper Kupp and then Gurley coming at you. And Jared Goff makes all the right moves. I mean, whether he's being spoon-fed information or not, he seems to be making all the right moves and does. And I really like that Rams team. And I picked the Saints. If you read our Pick'ems piece, I picked the Saints. But my caveat was I would not be picking them in January over the Rams, just like I will not be picking you to beat me in December for the MFST championship. Yeah. A lot of similarities there.
Maybe. We'll see. I picked the Rams to win this week, and they were one of my 2 losses. So it's tough to you got to give respect to the Saints. If they show they can beat the team, I'm going to believe that possibly if they do meet in the postseason. But, otherwise looking at the NFC, I mean, there's not a whole lot of great teams that really jump at you. The Eagles look mediocre. I think they're going to eventually come back and take that division. You see my Cowboys struggle, and I don't believe in the Redskins. So I think it's probably going to be down to those 2 teams. You can look at the Panthers. I'm not a believer in the Packers or really any NFC North team. The Bears don't have it this year. You keep picking them to win every week.
Only because of the defense, and I believe in Trubisky.
Do you believe in him winning in the if we're talking contenders?
I believe in him growing at a steady pace. I'm not saying he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Patrick Mahomes, but I believe in him growing at a steady, nice pace. And I mean, hey, he could be every bit the quarterback Jim McMahon was with a solid defense, maybe down the road. We'll see.
Yeah, but not this year. So I think it's Saints,
not this year. No,
Saints, Rams in the NFC, and whoever wins that slugfest will probably face the Patriots.
So I agree with that. And how much does Golden Tate help the Eagles, or what is exactly wrong with the Eagles right now? What is it exactly?
Their defense isn't playing as phenomenal as they did last year. I mean, they're keeping teams in it. But the offense as well. I think Carson Wentz is still shaking off some rust. And not that he's not playing, that he's playing hesitantly, but it seems a little standoffish. Now, the last game that I saw them play, they were on bye this last week, I believe. But Wentz was starting to get his flow back a little bit. So I think that offense. And they're going to end up being the champions of the East. But will they be able to put the miraculous postseason together again like they did last year? I'm not so sure.
So let me talk about the AFC real quick, Dan. And 2 quick points I want to mention there, I guess, is that you may have beat me in fantasy football, but ultimately, you know where I'm going to, don't you?
No.
Okay.
No, actually, I think I do now.
We'll get there. Let's talk about it. So ultimately, you may have beat me in fantasy football, but again, I predicted things correctly when I told you your Dallas Cowboys would have a rough year this year, and they lost last night to the Tennessee Titans. So I don't know, maybe you got the fantasy win, meaningless fantasy win. I'm not worried about that fantasy win in week 9 when I had 4 new players on my team. Not worried about that at all. I'll see you maybe in the championship. But my Tennessee Titans, and I told you all year long with that dynamic offense, would beat your Dallas Cowboys. But seriously, I can't figure out either one of these two teams, although I know neither one of them are very good at all. But it just so happened last night in Big D, the Tennessee Titans and Marcus Mariota did what they wanted to do on your Dallas Cowboys and their defense, minus Sean Lee again.
Yeah, I mean, I would give you some props if you picked him in the pick'em piece.
No, I'll never.
But you didn't. So, yeah, it was ugly. I mean, I actually, and I don't do this. I'm a diehard Cowboys fan. I watch every minute. I shut off the game with 4 minutes to go, and that was like Marissa looked at me and was like, "What are you doing?" Like, I couldn't watch it. It was just it was a terrible performance. Specifically, the offense. I mean, the defense. They kept allowing these third down conversions all night.
That's the most points Tennessee has put up all year. I don't know if you knew that, but that's the most points Tennessee has put up all year and probably will put up all year, 28.
Yeah, it's tough because, I mean, the defense is specifically early. I mean, they recovered 2 Mariota fumbles. They sacked him at least 5 times, so they were putting pressure on him. But everyone, I mean, Mariota looked like a franchise guy again in that game. Now, a very limited sample size. It was 1 game, but he looked like the Mariota that we all, I think, thought he would be. But it came down to the offense. If the Cowboys' offense did anything, I believe the Cowboys would have won. I mean, they could have easily put up just as many points, or it could have just changed the game if they could have ran the ball effectively. If Dak Prescott could look like a quarterback, that would be great. It was just bad. The one interception that he threw in the end zone, the red zone, that was in the end zone to Amari Cooper, who was double covered, he forced it into him. But the next wide receiver to the right of Cooper was wide open as he was doing a post corner route. And he was wide open, and Dak was just set on getting Amari Cooper the ball. And that's not what this offense is about by acquiring Cooper. But bottom line is falls on Prescott, and I don't believe he's going to ever get the Cowboys where I, as a fan, want them to be. That's winning games.
And so it's making it hard on Ezekiel Elliott too. It's eventually going to catch up to Ezekiel Elliott, and that's why I shied away from him in fantasy, because I knew that was going to catch up to them eventually. You can't just run him into the ground. Teams are going to start stacking the boxes. I think the play card is out on Dak Prescott, and so you guys have a decision to make. Is that something you do next? Just let me ask you about the Cowboys franchise in general. It's America's team, right? So, what about Jerry Jones and his, just controlling every aspect, dictatorship, so to speak, and controlling every aspect of it? How much can he let go? How much do you trust Steven? How much do you trust Jason Garrett? Is it time to move on from Dak Prescott? Is that becoming obvious? Or are they going to stick with him and try to build the best team they can around Dak Prescott?
Honestly, it's tough. Like, I grew up as the Cowboys fan in the early 90s when they were winning with Jerry and Jimmy, and then it obviously progressed. And during the most meaningful years, of my life, Tony Romo and took over and kind of led this team for the last decade of my really watching the game of football. My life, Tony Romo, and so it's took over and it's difficult to watch Jerry continue with this franchise. I've always said he's been the best owner, and I wouldn't want anybody else. But the comments he made today, and I don't know if you heard them or saw them. But it just scares me as a Cowboys fan for our long-term future. He basically guaranteed that he's going to lock up Dak Prescott to an extension, and I think that's terrible. And I don't see Dak as a franchise guy, a guy that can lead us to a Super Bowl championship. And ultimately, what I think will happen is Garrett will get let go in the offseason. He needs to. His time has just been stagnant. It's kind
so you don't think he's the golden boy? You don't think he's getting that Marvin Lewis kind of leash?
He can't. He kind of already has. He's one of the longest tenured coaches in the NFL right now.
What is it, 8-9 years, or is it more than that?
8.5 years. I think it's 8 full seasons, and he took over halfway for Wade Phillips for 8 games. So, but his record is basically 500. Never reached NFC Championship game, and they've had byes in the first round 2 or 3 times during his tenure. So it's tough. It's difficult to see, but I don't think he's the man. I mean, at least Scott Linehan has to go because his offensive scheme doesn't fit what the Cowboys do. The offensive line isn't what it used to. Tyron Smith, you can easily tell that his back is like broken, and he doesn't have that elite left tackle ability anymore. But it also falls on the rookie Connor Williams, who looks like a rookie. So the offensive line, their bread and butter, what led them to success, isn't there to open holes for Zeke. And Zeke's not looking elite. I mean, he flashed some plays last night that looked decent, but it wasn't anything spectacular. And the whole offense looks terrible. And I think they're probably going to clean coaching staff in the offseason would be my guess if they continue to lose. I'm predicting a 7-9 season would do that, 7-9 or less. But if they go 8-8 or 9-7 again, who knows? Maybe Jason Garrett will last another year at least. But I think they need to clean house.
Well, and I don't see it happening. I don't see him canceling out Garrett quite yet. Now, here's the thing. So what are they? They're 3-5 right now. So you got trips at Philadelphia, at Atlanta, and then home versus Washington, and then at the Saints, and then versus Philadelphia again.
Yeah. So just look at that schedule. The next 5. How many wins do you have them there? Maybe
home versus Washington.
Yep. Thanksgiving Day. But other than that, it's hard for me to say that they're going to beat the Eagles.
4-9 at the best, 5-8 at the best.
So,
and you do finish out with the Colts, Bucks, and Giants. Hey, that's the good news. You should win all of those games, honestly.
Yeah, but it's this next stretch of 4 or 5 games that is basically going to be the Cowboys season and maybe Jason Garrett's job.
I'm looking at the team leaders for the Cowboys right now. Do you realize that the leader in receptions is Cole Beasley, like I told you about 3 months ago, with only 36 and 2 touchdowns?
Yeah. Yep.
336 yards. 2 years ago, Dez would have had that in like 3 games.
Yeah, and I think that tells you the quarterback position and how Dak, there are Dak believers that blame it on the offensive line and blame it on the offensive scheme. But, I mean, you would at least be able to look competent. I mean, I said it to Cowboys fans that reached out when the Amari Cooper trade happened, and they said, is he going to help? And I said he can only help if he can catch with his feet or jump 26 feet in the air to catch footballs. Because if Dak can't put it accurately or properly predict and see the defense in front of him, it's not going to happen. So, man.
Yep. So we're also 8 games in for the Cowboys, and Ezekiel Elliott only has 3 touchdowns on the year.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is doing, I guess, technically well in yards, but he probably leads the NFL in carries by a lot. And I really have no idea, but they give him the ball a lot. That's why he was second in the NFL in rushing going into the game yesterday. I don't know what it is now, but his yards per carry average can't be very good, and he probably gets more carries in the NFL than any other back.
So I wanted to talk about AFC. We kind of got sidetracked with Cowboys talk, but I wanted to bounce back to the AFC because the Tennessee Titans beating Dallas those 2 franchises are kind of about the same pace to me, because if you ask me, I think Tennessee needs some help too. And I'm still not sold on Mariota. He has these games like he had with Philadelphia and then he had last night, but I just don't think he's the guy. I just don't. I think you need to keep your options open. But anyway, Tennessee is sitting in second in that AFC South. But what I wanted to talk to you about is that we talked about Philadelphia struggling. The second biggest surprise to me is the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I would have predicted to be in the Super Bowl this year if they could have just bounced back and at least had a relatively close or similar year to than they had last year with a little bit of progression. the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are 3-5 right now. So where do you think they're going to sort this out and eventually end up winning that AFC South, which really is up for grabs, I guess? Houston is the top dog right now at 6-3, but is Houston really the best team in that division?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Texans are going to run away with it, actually. I'm not a believer in the Jaguars at all, just the way they look. Not only offensively, Blake Bortles looks like he's actually taking a step back, from the mediocre season that he had last year that, was propelled by their defense. And that's why I'm not a believer in the Jaguars because their defenses look terrible. Trading Dante Fowler obviously doesn't help immediately. Maybe in the future it will with the draft pick that they got. But the secondary has been rough. They've been shredded by teams. They made Dak Prescott look good when the Cowboys blew them out. And it was an atrocious game if you're a Jaguars fan. But yeah, I'm not a believer in them at all because that defense can't play. I don't know if Doug Marrone has lost the locker room. I don't know if you heard about the partying and the arrests Sunday morning before the London game, which was played at 3:30 a.m. Hawaii time. Not fun to get up and watch that.
You probably didn't.
No, actually I didn't. But I did set an alarm when the Chargers played in Hawaii. Little side note, because I don't know, maybe the Chargers were playing the Jaguars that day, but I don't know. They played in London when I was in Hawaii, and I set an alarm for 3 a.m. to take Melvin Gordon out of the lineup if he was hurt. And he was hurt, and he missed that game. But I was a good fantasy owner and swapped him out at 3 a.m. Hawaii time.
Well, that's dedication. Hope you got the win that week.
There you go. I think I lost.
It wasn't really worth it then. Huh?
Yeah. But anyways, Jaguars not going anywhere.
Well, and Houston started the year 0-3 and have won 6 in a row.
Yeah, Deshaun, your quarterback looks good finally.
Not so much fantasy-wise. He's up and down. Yeah, he's okay. He's okay. He's no Drew Brees, but he's okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, topsy-turvy NFL season. But anyway, so the top dogs right now are the Kansas City Chiefs at 8-1. And of course, now the Los Angeles Rams are 8-1 as well. So,
new breed 8-1.
Yep. So I told you I'm following the Rams' path here. I still think they're Super Bowl favorites. I still think they're the best team. Saints are 7-1, looking really good. But if my money was to be placed on a wager in January, I'm not picking the Saints especially because I believe it's going to play out to where it's going to be in Los Angeles, and I'm not going to pick. Drew Brees to do this again over Los Angeles in Los Angeles.
Good weather. Good weather, at least.
It will be, but it ain't indoors. That seems to be Drew Brees' comfort zone. But it's so much to play out and injuries to play out too. Everything really kind of hinges on injuries back and forth. So, so what's up with our fantasy here? So this is what I got to send a kind of a message to the rest of the league, Dan, is because
complaint.
No, give me a second. Okay. Yeah, we talk trash back and forth, but I'm looking at the projected playoff bracket right now, and me and you, buddy, we're still projected to be in another championship game of a myfantasysportstalk.com league. So my message is to the other guys, what the hell y'all doing? Okay. What the hell y'all doing? Because me and Dan are just racking up. We just played in a freaking baseball championship. I didn't watch 2 outs of baseball this whole freaking year. And me and Dan just played in a baseball championship. I just can't get into it, man. I watched a second of that long World Series game because when I got home at 1:00 in the morning that Friday night, it was still going on, and I fell asleep on it at 2:00 in the morning. I'm just out, man. First commercial break. I can't do it, man. I'm not a big baseball guy anymore. I'm just not. But anyway, what's up with the rest of you guys? Casey, Thomas Take, Dylan. All you guys talking trash and want to come at me, but I'm just saying it's still looking like me and Dan in the championship game. So y'all guys need to step up your game, whether I win or lose. I'm confident I'm going to win. I think I got the best team, but it's still the projected playoff bracket has me and Dan meeting in another championship game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why as the listeners, when you send in your mailbag questions and it's Brandon and I answering them, it's pretty good advice. So it's every year, and we talk smack back and forth, but there's a respect there. As when I beat you, which has happened 3 times to only 1 loss, there's respect that you're getting beat by the best. So. Again, it's only happened once to me, so I don't know the full feeling of it. But you do know that I'm beating or losing against the best, and the other guys, especially our man Thomas Take, who talks all this smack about being the fantasy football champion, and he hasn't showed up in the MFST league ever.
I don't know what he thought this year, but his team never had a chance, trades or not.
Yeah, I mean, he made a nice deal. Props to him on getting Alvin Kamara in our league.
I think it was a wash. I mean,
it's they got Dalvin Cook, I think, too, but Dalvin's on the bye.
They flip-flopped.
So
They were 2 mediocre teams that flip-flopped players. Who cares?
Yeah, that's true. One and doneers, not even make-iters. Yeah.
But we have, if my memory serves me correctly, neither you or I have lost a fantasy championship period to another MFST member. If we've lost, it's been to outsiders.
Yeah, and I think our only competition this year is really that Baltimore Bullies. That's Thomas Samuel Ball, a listener of the show and reader of the site. So
strong team. I beat him. You lost to him.
We made fun of him in the beginning of the year on his team, and he pulled out some great picks. I know you just said I lost to him. I just ignored that.
It's a solid team. Hey, I remember that game very well. I barely beat him. If Tyreek Hill wouldn't have got a last-second long Hail Mary touchdown, then he would have beat me too. But hey, that's why I'm a dangerous team. I got explosive weapons like that. So, but yeah, it may happen again. I think you're right. I think that may be the only competition. DDT is trying to hang in there, and the Purtons are trying to hang in there too, but I don't see it happening. I believe I play the Purtons this week, and you are about to knock Thomas Take out of playoff contention.
It's almost going to be as sweet as beating you. It really is. I'm looking forward to this week's matchup against Thomas Take and all the trade acquisitions he made just being on bye. That's going to be great. Looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to this week too, because the Purtons talk much trash. Nick, where are you at? Submit your mailbag questions as you head up this week.
Get to it.
We'll see what happens. So
Purtons have been dry.
Yeah. Yep. No talk at all. So let's get it re-energized. Let's see what's going on. If you beat me this week, Nick, you're right back in it. You'd be 6-4, while I would drop to 8-2. So. And 6 teams make the playoffs, 2 buys and then 4 other guys, which the buys right now go to me and Dan. So submit your mailbag questions. Let's get right back into that. Pick up this podcast thing from where we left off about a month ago. It's heavy fantasy football. We need your help. Submit all the mailbag questions. Let's talk about that. Let's work through it the back half of this NFL season, the back half of this fantasy season, because like I said, our fantasy season only has 4 weeks left, and we start the playoffs. So let's get into that. So keep submitting the questions. Fantasy football, NFL, we don't care. We're ready to get back into it. Hey, Dan, I noticed something while we're talking here. Didn't really mention it, but I noticed some bling on the ring there. So that's different.
It's there. Oh, felt weird, but now I'm getting used to it. I'm losing I don't know if you have finger hair on your finger there. I do, but I'm losing it.
And I got hair everywhere but where I really need it the most. A lot of hair everywhere but where I need it the most. So, all right, submit the questions. Dan, glad you're back. We're going to keep doing this thing hardcore now. So any last word? What's going on the site right now, though, period? A lot of entertainment stuff I've noticed. The fall show season has kicked off, so the entertainment section is blowing up too right now.
Yeah. I mean, Kira McCall, Samantha Wynn, doing a great job as entertainment editors and producers. I mean, they're producing content nonstop on all the shows. And another shout out to one of our entertainment writers, Mickey Small, who got contacted by a newspaper in Brazil or somewhere, wanting to do a piece on her, and they found her by her works. on the site. So I know she's excited about that, and that was great hearing that news. I don't know if I had all those details right, but somewhere wanted to contact her and interview her for it. So that's good work there. And then, yeah, I mean, my fantasy rankings are back in action in college basketball now that that's back. I'm going to be covering that all over it already. So look at the site and you'll see college basketball on there.
You definitely will. And you're definitely going to hear about it more on the next My Fantasy podcast. So check that out, as we're going to talk about an opening night of college basketball and what's going on in the NBA on the next My Fantasy podcast. So thanks a lot for joining us again, guys. Missed you guys. Welcome back. Keep submitting the questions for Dan Schalk. I am Brandon Reed. Till next time. Later. Peace. All righty then. I didn't really know where to go with that. It's just football talk.
Yep, that works.
Whatever. Diz! Or do we call him just now free agent? Free agent kitty.
Mm-hmm. Waste of a draft pick for you.
I'm not necessarily say it was a waste.
My brother drafted him in our fantasy football league, and he's still keeping him. Who knows? Working out for the Saints.
I know. At this point, though, I'm thinking even because it's not looking like he's even talking to anybody. So at this point, if he does get signed, it's going to take a few weeks. And then who even knows what he has left? So it's like, well, okay, I'm done. I'm done. All right, hang on one second. Y'all still live in the same house you lived in?
Yep.
Oh yeah, obviously the background.
Yeah, we're gonna be here a little bit longer, but it's not big enough. We're gonna have to eventually upgrade. Just depends when. Decisions.
Okie dokie. LaMelo Ball to enroll and play at Ohio High School.
Yep.
Did you see that?
Ohio and LiAngelo was going to try and sign a G League contract. Those smart ball brothers.
He won't even make it in the G League. He ain't got it. He ain't got it. He just ain't got it. LaMelo has been ruined so bad by LeVar. Now look at this. Now he should have stayed in Chino Hills. I mean, right back where you started. Why Ohio?
Look, is it actually Ohio, the state, or is it in California?
It says Ohio High School. Spear Institute. Or Spire Institute. Yep, Spire Institute in Ohio. That's just funny to me, man. That's just funny to me. All right. Ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. And we're back just like that. We're not going to disappear again on you. Thanks for checking out the last podcast, My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Got you up to date on a little football, but now it's hoops time. And our man, our editor-in-chief and president is back from Hawaii, back from getting married and all that. And with some new bling on his finger, he is Dan Schalk. What up?
What's going on? I came back in the perfect time. College basketball starts. I'm a huge college basketball fan, not just the top teams, but I'm a fan of watching the mid-majors play. I'm credentialed at Canisius, who's going to make a name for themselves this year. If you don't know, Canisius Golden Griffins. Did you know that they were the Golden Griffins?
Of course I did. Of course I did.
Yep. Yeah, Brandon knew it because he's a college basketball fan too. But I
also know that they had two guys actually declare for the NBA draft this year. So
they came back. They came back.
Cool. Yeah, right. We're not talking about scrubs though. If you were even going to take that leap and that chance, then we're not talking about scrubs here.
And after your freshman and sophomore seasons, Isaiah Reese and Takal Molson, of course, you are talking about, Brandon. Good job. So you've read some good Canisius material. But yeah, I'm excited to be back at the podcast and talking some hoops. You've probably been keeping up with NBA. I haven't too much, although LeBron and his Lakers, they're probably on all the time all over the U.S., but in Hawaii they were featured quite a bit to start the season. So I caught a couple Lakers games. It didn't go well for them, but maybe they're turning it around now.
So we're back at it. This is going to be a basketball edition of My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. I am Brandon Reed. My co-host is Dan Schalk. So while you're watching all that Lakers stuff, because I have been watching NBA, but I haven't have you seen LeVar around Lakers camp and on the sidelines, Dan? Because I have not.
No, I think he's focusing on his other ball sons and ready to make them superstars. And he's probably just working on BBB, Big Baller Brand. And, they came out with the new ZO2, which is priced a little bit better. And I'm sure he's just...
It looks a lot worse. Come on, Dan. Who is buying this crap? Who is buying this crap?
Purchase orders, because when you're the president of a brand... you can't always just be sidelines at Lakers games. You got other stuff to take care of, and I'm sure he's TCB taking care of business.
Dude, that shoe is garbage, Dan. Straight hot garbage. Okay, so LaMelo is back in high school, folks. He just enrolled in the Spire Academy in Ohio. So not really going the way that LeVar hoped it would for LaMelo. And you were telling me earlier, Dan, that you saw LiAngelo's going to try out for a G League team, or
try and get a G League contract, is what it said.
Well, the G League's already underway right now. So he's like one of the lower tier guys. He's like trying out amongst 200 guys, and his number's 189.
Well, maybe the G League didn't know he was available, and now that he's available, they're gonna be like, "Oh man, we can get this ball guy." And,
I hardly think that's the situation going on. So
we'll see when he signs.
But I'm hyped as well, Dan, because tonight is official. I don't know when you're going to catch this podcast. It's whenever we release it, but I thank you for watching. But anyway, it's election night, Tuesday, November 6th, but it's also the start of college basketball season, which I'm pumped for two reasons, really. Number one, there is two great matchups going on right now. I'm going to have to get out of this podcast because two great matchups. I believe it is Kansas, Michigan State squaring off in one of the matchups first, and then Duke and Kentucky squaring off in the second matchup, which I'm really excited about that because Zion Williamson, we get to see his real true debut now, and that kid is the truth. I'm telling y'all, there's never been a kid coming out of high school more ready for the NBA since LeBron James than this Zion Williamson kid. Watch it, no doubt, not even a question in my mind. He's a beast. But also, the Penny Hardaway era starts for the University of Memphis tonight as they take on Texas Tech. So I'm so excited for college basketball, but you know I'm extra super excited because this is not just a Memphis Tiger basketball season. Since we have known each other, Dan, and I've been a part of MyFantasySportsTalk.com, you know this Tiger basketball season is special and something bigger and better and more exciting than anything else Tiger basketball that I have ever seen as far as this our relationship, and you know that. And next year's only going to be bigger, man, because I know you've heard about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, we talk back and forth about the legend that is Penny Hardaway and what he's done to that program, and yeah, I mean, I think he's going to bring them back to those glory days. I mean, I grew up in Buffalo, New York, but I watched Memphis from afar when Derrick Rose was on the team and taking them to that championship years ago. It seems now.
Well, how about how the Mr. Timeless, Father Time, denying Father Time? He scored 50 the other night and was in tears because of it.
Yeah, that was. I think that speaks of how long it's really been since Memphis basketball has been very relevant, because now Derrick Rose is considered the old man in the NBA.
Well, people forget he was the youngest MVP ever. I feel like Memphis basketball has kind of been cursed because if you got to think about Penny Hardaway could have been one of the very best ever. Magic Johnson-like, and I'm not kidding in the least little bit. Magic Johnson-like, if injuries didn't derail Penny Hardaway's career. We've seen the same with Derrick Rose, the youngest ever MVP. And another name you might have even forgot, DeJuan Wagner, the son of Milt Wagner, was supposed to be a great player too, and he had an intestinal problem. So it's almost like Memphis players, the top elite Memphis players, have been cursed when it comes to the NBA. But now one of the greatest ever.
Now you have Penny, and I sent you a picture the other day of his desk of himself at Memphis, and I think this kind of speaks to probably why he's getting all those damn good recruits. It said the man, the myth, the legend, or something like that, works here, and it was him doing that to him, to everyone else, and he knows he's got it. And Memphis isn't. I don't know if you. I want to get your take on this. I guess is how good they're going to be this season, because I think the American Athletic is going to be kind of down, or maybe just more parity in that conference. But how good are they going to be this year? Because coming up with my top 25 rankings of college basketball, which I put on the site, every place that I kind of gathered data from didn't have them even getting votes for the top 25. So are they going to be that type of team this year, or where do you think Penny, he's doing all these great recruiting, grabbing these high-end recruits, but on-court coach coming from high school, right? That's where he came from. How is he going to be this year coaching that team?
It's going to be fine. It gets to a certain point where we all want to. I want to see Hardaway do well as far as coaching and learn how to coach. But it gets to a point where sometimes that don't even really matter because John Calipari, let me tell you, John Calipari is not the best in-game X's and O's coach. To me, John Calipari blew Memphis's championship in 2008 by mismanaging the final 90 seconds of that game when we were up by 9. But he had the players. He recruited Derrick Rose. He had the best player in the country, Derrick Rose, which carried us through the whole tournament that year and beat some of the top name and top-notch schools in the whole tournament. In the whole country. Penny Hardaway is going to be right back there in doing that again, as we saw, not to get too deep into next year's recruiting, but we saw DJ Jeffries, who decommitted from Kentucky. Calipari's never had a decommit from Kentucky. DJ Jeffries is the one and only decommit from Kentucky, committed to Memphis 2 weeks ago, which means, sorry, folks, if you have optimistic hopes for James Wiseman, he ain't coming to your school. He's coming to Memphis. And also, there's 2 more names out there, big names for the Tigers in Trendon Watford and Matthew Hurt. If they can get one or if both of those guys come, then you're talking about one of the best recruiting classes ever we've seen in decades here. We're talking about better than Duke, better than Kentucky, and we're talking about at least Final Four expectations, at least, for sure. But as far as this year, I think they should make the tournament. That they probably shouldn't be in those top 25 preseason polls, Dan, because they got a lot of ground to make up. And let's face it, from where they're coming from is not very good. But they signed a couple of really good guards, got commits from a couple of really good guards in Alex Lomax and Tyler Harris. They're undersized. They're an undersized backcourt. But they got Kevon Davenport coming back and some other guys. But Tyler Harris, so basically you got about 2 5'9" guys in your backcourt. One who is an absolute solid point guard ball distributor, another one who is an absolute fill it up scorer. So their backcourt is going to be tough to handle. Promise you, their backcourt's going to be tough to handle. And you're right about the AAC being down. It's going to be down. Wichita State might be the surprise of that conference, and I mean in a bad way. They're going to be down a lot further than you've seen Wichita State and a Greg Marshall team in a long time. The cream of the crop, probably, you're talking about a combination of Cincinnati, Houston, UCF, and Memphis, and of course Wichita State in that mix. But Memphis is going to be right there, and I expect them to make the tournament this year once all these guys start learning how to play together with Mike Parks and Kareem Bruton, Kevon Davenport. But like I said, those two new guys that they signed, which were neither one of those guys, Alex Lomax or Tyler Harris, were even considering coming to the University of Memphis under Tubby Smith. So things change. And it's going to be big. I expect them to make the tournament this year. So what I wanted to say to you, Dan, when I saw that your top 25 rankings come out this week, suggest everyone take a look at that. The top 25 rankings, college basketball on myfantasysportstalk.com. And you were right on. I couldn't disagree. I really couldn't disagree with any of the picks. You're right. But I know Memphis folks may be a little bit, sore about that. Like, hey, what about us? But it's not our time. But what I'm predicting to you, Dan, is after this Advocare Invitational, I'm saying around 1st of December, first poll in December, that look out, the Tigers may be ranked at that point. And I think they may even shock you in the Advocare.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I'm looking forward to, is seeing Memphis up close in person. I want to see how Penny is going to coach, and I have some news for you. I think you're going to be sorely mistaken in the Advocare, because I already see it. You're predicting a second round matchup against the reigning national champ Villanova.
Oklahoma State doesn't scare me.
I'm with you. I think you're gonna take on beat Oklahoma State, but I think you're gonna be facing Canisius instead of Villanova, as they're gonna come out and take it. So wow. It's gonna be a resume hurt something to the Tigers, because they're not going to be able to face Villanova in the Advocare Invitational. But it'll be a good matchup if it happens, which it probably will. But
well, I don't know that I've ever been more excited for Thanksgiving in my life, Dan, to be honest with you, because I've never been to Orlando, Florida. Truth be told, I've never been to Orlando. I've never been to Disney World, never been to Universal Studios, never been to none of that, but I'm about to be. And I cannot be more excited for Thanksgiving, because on Thanksgiving Day, we will be there for not only Canisius, taking on Villanova, the reigning defending champs, but Memphis and Oklahoma State. And then the very next day, we get to see the results of that play out too. And then we get a Saturday to do what we want to in Orlando, Florida, or Tampa, or whatever we want to do. So I have never been more excited for Thanksgiving. I don't even care about turkey or dressing or none of that stuff. It's gonna be shorts and short sleeves and basketball and tournament hoops and just all kinds of things. I like it.
Yeah, I share your excitement level, and we're going to be able to share it with My Fantasy Sports Talk fans and listeners and readers, because we will be doing Facebook Live and different types of various shows from the Advocare Invitational, maybe even during our off day. Who knows? You might find out things you never wanted to know about Brandon. But you'll find them out. So I'm looking forward to it, and it's going to be some good basketball to watch, and some elite programs are going to be playing. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I can promise you'll find out things about me you never knew because I'm going to be having a good time, folks. This is going to be Orlando Thanksgiving. My Tigers are playing. I will get a picture with the man, Penny Hardaway. I will be up in those press conferences when he tells you how the backcourt of Alex Lomax and Tyler Harris broke down Villanova and beat the defending national champions. I'm going to be all up in that, and I can't wait. I can't wait. So, but anyway, college basketball is here. Can you believe that, Dan? Really, it was less than a week ago. It was Halloween. Here we are in college basketball. Here you are married, and what a wonderful time.
Yeah, I mean, my fall kind of just flew by, and we're basically into winter because Buffalo's going to be getting snow this weekend. So, my winter is basically here, and that means college basketball for me. I'm looking forward to not only the Invitational, but Canisius has a home game even before we go on the Advocare Invitational, so I'll be able to watch them up close. I think they take on, it might be like a Robert Morris or something like that, but I'm looking forward to that. And in college basketball tonight specifically, like you said in the beginning of the show, Brandon, Zion Williamson and Duke. I wanted so bad in my top 25 to just do it and put them number one. I put Kansas just because of the veteran presence that they kind of have on their team, where I think Duke is going to need to rely on the freshmen that they have, not only in Williamson, but Barrett as well. They're going to have to rely on those two to kind of lead the team. And Williamson, I mean, if you've been on the site, we've kind of hyped him up a little bit too. We've done articles on just his mixtapes because you just watch the guy dunk and you're like, this, to me, he reminds me of Shaq so much. He
blocked shots. He's 275 and gliding from the free throw line and punching it.
It's insane to watch him play, and I've been watching Duke exhibition games. I'm not a Duke fan by any means, but I've just been watching him. They took on some like Ferris State or some terrible Division III team.
They played an international team recently too, and
it was bad. So it was. I'm excited to see how he faces game one against big boy competition because Kentucky, as always, they have players, and a lot of polls actually have Kentucky ranked ahead of Duke. Not in my poll for MFST, but a lot of polls do have Kentucky ranked ahead of Duke, and I don't see it. I think the money should be on Duke tonight, and I actually took that, the money line, with the plus 100 even odds. I was up on that all day, so I think Duke is going to surprise a lot tonight if you don't think they're going to win.
No, I completely agree. I think Kentucky will actually struggle this year. And when you talk about big boys, Zion Williamson, I don't care whether they're a fifth-year senior, Zion Williamson will be the biggest boy on the court tonight. Promise you that all season long. This dude is the truth. He's just the truth. I'm actually also kind of looking forward to that Kansas game because, there's a former Memphis tie with the Lawsons, Dedrick and KJ.
They're back, right? They sat out last year.
Out their year. Dedrick, supposedly, from what a lot of Memphis folks tell me, is the best player, and what even what Kansas is said. Bill Self has said that he is the most probably all-around best player on their team. And Dedrick Lawson, which I think he's going to be a great college player. I just don't think he has the motor to translate into the NBA. I'm sorry if you folks disagree, but we'll see how that plays out. But really good college basketball player. KJ probably shouldn't be on the team. He's a headache. And I've always said that about the Lawsons. And that's what Tubby was trying to clean up. Yes, some of you, I guess, want to just put up with that no matter what because he can ball. Well, no, sometimes it's not worth it. And I'll be surprised if KJ survives in Bill Self's program. But Dedrick, on the other hand, probably will. And I'm looking forward to just see how that mixes and meshes tonight. And you mentioned that Canisius has one of those opening Advocare games, and so does Memphis, which this is going to be their first true test as they play Texas Tech tonight. But the first true test comes a week from tonight, Tuesday the 13th, when they take on LSU in Baton Rouge, which LSU is supposed to have one of the top recruiting classes in the country. So watch out for LSU basketball. They're supposed to be making a splash in the SEC this year. You got your top dogs, Kentucky. Tennessee's supposed to be really good as well. So I would imagine Alabama. But anyway, LSU is supposed to be good. That's going to be the Tigers' first true test. So that's going to be a showdown next Tuesday night, the 13th, as Memphis goes to LSU as one of those opening games in the Advocare, which is kind of silly to me, right? Because it doesn't really matter at all. The bracket's already set, right, Dan? I mean, what are they doing here? It's like an opening matchup. Memphis even has another game in between. They play Yale on the 17th.
Yeah. So. The home game I'm going to is not part of the Advocare Invitational. They play Canisius plays a campus game at Florida State 2 days before the Advocare Invitational is their, I guess, opening round game, and that'll be a good one to watch. But that'll be in Tallahassee. I will not be at that one, but then they come back right after playing Florida State. They come back and they host Villanova in that opening round that we'll be at. The first game of the tournament is Canisius Villanova, so I'm looking forward to that. And tonight, like you said, Kansas Michigan State. I think Kansas is going to beat Michigan State. They're kind of down this year. They're still a top 10 team right now, but they did lose. They got your Memphis Grizzlies have their boy, right?
Yeah, you can't lose that much NBA talent and bounce right back. Although I mean, Izzo does it all the time, but you got to expect they're going to be down a little bit because they weren't even really top notch last year, the last couple of years. So I'm with you there. I would suspect Kansas is definitely the favorite.
Yeah, so and then another game tonight where we keep talking about the reigning champs, national champs, Villanova. I wrote a piece on them playing the vaunted Morgan State Bears. They're taking them on. I almost said it with a straight face. The game will be over 10 minutes in, but it's just going to be interesting to see how Villanova rebounds because they lost a lot of talent, surprisingly, to the NBA. Like Dante DiVincenzo, I know Jalen Brunson was going to come out, but they lost a lot. So they only have, I think it's 2 returning prominent players, Phil Booth being one of them, but they have a trio of sophomores that are starting for the first time. So I'm intrigued. I'm actually going to be watching that game when we get off and just want to see how they mesh before we see them up close and personal during the Invitational.
So speaking of this Invitational, again, we are going to blow it out. Look for us all tournament long as Dan and I will be there live from the Advocare Invitational, officially from Lake Buena Vista, Florida. But that's coming to you November 22nd, 23rd, and 20th. So let's kind of run down the slate real quick. We'll start it off. As Dan said, the very first matchup is his Canisius Golden Griffins against the Villanova Wildcats, defending champion. And that's going to be starting about the time all of you are eating turkey on Thanksgiving Day at 1:30 Eastern time, Canisius versus Villanova, followed up by my Memphis Tigers versus Oklahoma State at 3:30 or 4 Eastern time. Then College of Charleston is in the tournament. They'll be taking on LSU Tigers. That's going to be coming to you a little bit later, about 7 Eastern time. And then late at night, probably about 9:30 Eastern time, will be UAB, which is on Memphis's schedule this year as well, bringing back that old rivalry against Florida State. So the home team, you got one home team in there. So that should probably be crowded as too. But honestly, Dan, I can't wait for all these games. It's just college. It's something about to me. Basketball and tournaments that just it brings excitement to me. It's like something about the one and done or win and go home, this is not really win and go home, but it's something about moving on and playing the next team. I don't really care what it is. I don't care if it's 5th grade basketball. If it's a tournament, I'm all in.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And another thing just with college basketball in general, upsets. They happen. They're going to happen in this tournament. It just depends which team. Will it be Oklahoma State upsetting Penny Hardaway in is one of his debut games, a debut for a tournament at least? It could happen. It could, Brandon. And then we can go live from My Fantasy Sports Talk with the video of Brandon, his tears. We can capture his tears on video if Memphis were to lose. So I think it would be a win-win for the audience. Maybe not for you.
It could happen. I'm not saying, because no one really knows exactly how Memphis is going to mesh and take to this new season under a new coach. A lot of new players, a lot of players that have come from junior college as well. So it's going to be, it very well could be. I was looking at the Ken Palm ratings, which I know this is super, super early, and it's really hard to even project right now, but Ken Palm ratings actually has Oklahoma State ranked higher than
Oh,
Memphis right now. But as I try to tell you folks, that Memphis has come from such a far back place. So Ken Palm right now, Oklahoma State is ranked preseason, of course, 61, whereas Memphis is 107. So it's not out of the question. There's going to be a new vibe and a new energy. And if you're just wondering, Memphis basketball is going to be pro style this year. What you've been seeing in the NBA with the high scoring, that's going to be Memphis this year. A lot of up and down, a lot of scoring, not so much defensive focused oriented games. Not going to be a half court game. It's going to be up and down tempo. They're going to be looking to outscore you. And I think it's going to eventually work out for them. So I think we can punch Oklahoma State upside the mouth and get that upset. I just want to play Villanova. And as you get the chance with your Golden Grips, Dan. So let's transition into NBA. Talk about NBA real quick. What surprised you, Dan, other than the Houston Rockets starting the season? What did they start the season 1-5? And they're currently, they won 3 in a row. They're 4-5 now, but they did start the season 1-5. To me, that was kind of the shocker of the early NBA season.
Yeah, one thing that I have kept an eye on, just because I've kept seeing it all over, the sports web that I look at, and that's the Wizards struggling the way they are. I think they only have 1 win on the year, and I know Dwight Howard missed a big chunk of games to open the season, but as an owner of Otto Porter, he's been terrible this year, to be honest with you. I mean, you expect Porter to put up numbers in a lot of categories, and he really hasn't. He's shooting like 20 to 30% from the field, which isn't going to cut it. But yeah, the Wizards have been terrible. I think they were 1-7 at last check. They could be even worse now. Who knows? But
2-7. They won the last game.
They picked up a win. There you go. Yep. So, that was a surprising, because, I mean, to me, they're a top 4 team, home court in the first round of the playoffs type team, with that kind of talent. When you look at John Wall, Bradley Beal, Otto Porter, Dwight Howard, I mean, that's a nice 4 out of 5 starting lineup. But they haven't put it together. So that was a shocker to me, at least in the East.
I think that'll work itself out a little bit, because I got to believe that they're probably better than the Pistons and the Heat, which are currently the 8th and 7th teams right now. But it's been the teams that you may have caught you by surprise. Number 1, Milwaukee. Milwaukee's look great. They're currently the 2 seed, but they've only lost 1 game. They're 8-1, and Toronto's just been on fire with the newly acquired Kawhi Leonard, and Kyle Lowry's been playing great as well. So they are 10-1. So that kind of tops off the East. And then Indiana's been playing really well as well. And then Boston has kind of struggled. How is it that Boston was better last year without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward than they are right now? Is it just trying to fit those pieces together, or what? I have my suspicion, but what do you think, Dan?
Yeah, my guess is, I haven't watched a single minute of a Celtic game, so I can't really speak to it. But during the regular season and postseason, some other players like a Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have kind of taken over. But this year now, there's all these mouths to feed. To me, it seems like you have Kyrie Irving, you have Gordon Hayward, you have Tatum, I mean, Al Horford. You have all these players that are probably going to want to get theirs.
Rozier, Marcus Smart,
team basketball, and
Jaylen Brown's got it
well last year.
Jaylen Brown has been forgotten about. If you're a fantasy owner of Jaylen Brown, you're really disappointed, and he is completely. I'm not even really considering him. His value is so low in daily fantasy right now; it's ridiculous. So you're right about more mouths to feed, but why is the team not having more success by adding 2 All-Stars back into the mix with Kyrie and Gordon Hayward?
I'm guessing not knowing how to play together, on the court at one time. And I think they have one of the best coaches in the NBA to figure it out. So I'm not too worried if I'm a Celtics fan. But I think it's just going to take a little bit of time. You always see LeBron James's teams kind of struggle. They don't know how to play with them, right out of the gate a lot. So maybe it's the same in Boston. But what are your thoughts, Brandon? You tell me.
My thoughts are that it's Kyrie Irving, that he is hard to get along with and hard to play with, that he is selfish, which is the reason he's in Boston right now, and that he wants to be the man. And it's hard to get along with that philosophy. Once he went down, that team did not have that philosophy. It was next man up. It was play for ourselves, play as a whole, complete unit. And you saw them go to the NBA Finals, or the Eastern Conference Finals anyway. It just got beat by one better man. But I'm not a Kyrie Irving fan. I thought it was so selfish of him to get out of Cleveland the way he did, and now you got what you want. And it must have been really hard for him to sit on the sidelines last year and watch this Boston Celtics team have so much success with you not a part of it, with Gordon Hayward not a part of it. So that's the problem to me. I'm not going to lie. I think the team may be better with Kyrie traded and up out of there and let Terry Rozier run the point guard duty, or Marcus Smart, or split it. So I don't know, but they had to have been the favorite in the Eastern Conference coming into the season, when knowing Kyrie was coming back and Gordon Hayward was coming back, especially the way the young kids played last year with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It just hasn't worked out. It's so early, but they're 6-4 and just haven't really looked good. That's the thing. But neither has the Philadelphia 76ers too. So a lot of time to work some things out there. But saw the Golden State Warriors up close and personal last night as they beat my Grizzlies. The Grizzlies played great for one half and then got outscored 34-15, I believe, in the third quarter, when the Warriors decided to become the Warriors. So just so many weapons, man. There's so many weapons. If you had to place a wager in Vegas right now for winning it all, who are you betting on, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Warriors again. I don't think it's going to be close. You look at the second team in the West, is my old favorite team, Denver Nuggets, before they screwed George Karl. But
solid team though this year, just a solid team. They're gritty.
Team basketball is what they play, and Jokic, I've been a big believer in him. But I think they wouldn't last 5-6 games in a 7-game series with the Warriors. Boogie Cousins hasn't even come back to the team yet. And once he does, I mean, come on, it's not even going to be fair. It's just not. So it's the Warriors, then everybody.
Lakers also off to a slow start, 4-6. How do you think that's going to pan out for LeBron and his Lakers this year?
Yeah, I don't think they have all the pieces and talent there that they need. But LeBron's going to get them to the playoffs. They weren't a playoff team last year. They were one of the worst. They did a little bit better than previous years, but LeBron's going to get them to the playoffs. But I don't think you might see a first-round exit for maybe the first time in LeBron's career, because I don't see them doing too much in the West. I mean, the West is stacked. You're going to match up with a Portland or even a San Antonio. I'm surprised how well they're playing. DeMar DeRozan looks good.
Popovich is that elite level coaching. Yeah.
Yep.
He runs the system. That's the difference between what he does in some of these other elite programs and what LeBron has had. Because LeBron over the last since Spoelstra, really, because I believe in Spoelstra. I think Spoelstra was a really good coach, but in his whole career at Cleveland, Mike Brown, come on. Who was the other guy from Italy?
David Blatt.
Yeah, Blatt, come on. Tyronn Lue, come on. Give me a break. LeBron was running that whole team, and he's never had that Phil Jackson type coach to say, you're my player, you're going to run my scheme. I don't care if you're Michael Jordan or what. It's my organization. We're going to run things the way I say it because I'm an elite level coach. LeBron just hasn't had that, and he doesn't have it now in Luke Walton. And I think it's somewhat toxic because you're going to have LeBron, you're going to have Magic, and we mentioned it before, you're going to have LeVar Ball sticking his nose in there too. And it's a tough situation for Luke Walton. I would not want to deal with all those personalities if I'm Luke Walton, and I don't think he's strong enough to deal with it. As far as on the floor, I like a lot what the Lakers have. Rajon Rondo is a baller at whatever age he is, and he probably should be the starting point guard. JaVale McGee, I like him a lot. I like a lot of the pieces that the Lakers have. Even adding Michael Beasley, he could add really good bench scoring, which he hadn't done anything so far this year, but he's a great bench scorer and he kind of hold things up for you as far as the scoring load, as we saw in New York last year when it's time to get the starters a rest. So I don't necessarily think the roster is really horrible. Ingram has played good. Kuzma is Kuzma. LeVar's kind of been up and down. Lonzo, sorry. There's so many of them. But I think he's also having to compete with a really good point guard in Rajon Rondo, who is I think he's good. He's solid. He's just no nonsense, which is why he got suspended for getting into a fight. Did you catch that while you were gone?
I heard about
blamed for that.
The mystery of the spitter or something happened, but yeah, I did. I caught a glimpse.
Hey, anytime Chris Paul is involved in something, let me tell you guys something. Chris Paul is at fault. Such a punk. How many times do I got to say this on this podcast and repeat those words? It's always Chris Paul's fault. Such a punk. And I saw that coming that whole game. Those two personalities were about to butt heads in Rajon Rondo and Chris Paul. And sure enough, damned if it didn't. And it led to a little bit of confrontation. But I don't know. I think I'm not sure Luke Walton is going to survive this, regardless of what Magic Johnson says or not. They need a stronger personality in there. They need someone to kind of put it all together. But they're 4-6 right there. Grizzlies holding down that 8th spot right now, Dan. How long do you think that'll last?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by their start. It's kind of like Conley and Gasol are kind of back again, a little bit healthier, I'm assuming. But yeah, I was definitely surprised. I thought they would be towards the Mavericks and Suns, but I don't know. What do you think?
It's been the role players. It's Garrett Temple has played really good. Shelvin Mack has played really good. Wayne Selden has stepped it up. Kyle Anderson is a good player. It kind of scares me because it's a little bit more of that grit and grind mentality, whereas just the guys play solid, but you don't have that punch. You know what I'm saying? And we saw that last night in the Golden State Warriors game too. They just didn't have that punch in the second half. Once Golden State turned it on, Memphis didn't have a chance. They just didn't have a chance to match firepower for firepower. But in any other year in a non-Golden State era, the Grizzlies would be pretty good, a pretty decent basketball team. But not in this era when everyone's just trying to outscore. So, but that's your update in the NBA right now. Still so much to work out, but your top teams are Golden State Warriors at 10-1, Denver Nuggets, surprisingly Dan's old team at 9-1, Toronto Raptors at 10-1, and then 8-1 Milwaukee Bucks. Those guys are taking over the league right now. So much to be played out. Let me ask you this, Dan. How do you feel about your fantasy basketball team right now? In all seriousness, serious.
I like it.
What is your record anyway right now?
2-1. I lost the team.
You lost already.
Team day.
No, I haven't. I'm 3-0.
He's got a good team.
I'm 3-0.
I mean, if Jimmy Butler would decide not to take every other game off,
that's the thing. I don't like what I'm hearing from Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler said, "I'll decide when I play."
Basically, and I dealt with some Anthony Davis injuries, so that's why I'm not undefeated. So other than that, my two top guys haven't played too much, and I'm still putting up a decent amount of points, so I'm good with it for right now. But you never know. You never know. Nick Perkins, get at me. Casey Birch, get at me for some trades, and we'll make something happen.
Casey will. Goodness gracious. But all right, so there's your basketball update. So much going on, and we got to get out of here and watch some college hoops. So I got to watch that Penny Hardaway era kick off in Memphis tonight against Tennessee Tech. And then look out for us again, Advocare Invitational coming up in Orlando, Florida, and the week of Thanksgiving. It's kicking off November, was it 22nd? Is that? Yep. That's Thanksgiving Day. So we're going to be blasting out material over that weekend, Thanksgiving holiday and Thanksgiving weekend. So check out that. So cannot wait for that. My man, Dan Shaw, anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, just keep up with the site. Entertainment section blowing up as usual, and all the college basketball stuff, fantasy football rankings on the site right now. And fantasy football as we get closer to championships and playoff time. I think, my fantasy sports talk says it all. So check out the site. And then just as Brandon said, Thanksgiving week, we're going to be live from Orlando, Advocare Invitational. If you're a college basketball fan, you won't want to miss the content that we'll put on the site, the Facebook page. Make sure you like it and follow us everywhere because we're everywhere. So do it.
we'll probably throw in a podcast or two and answer some mailbag questions. But I do want you guys to keep submitting mailbag questions in not only as we're wrapping up the back end of the NFL season, but your NBA fantasy questions as well, because we're just getting into it. There's free agents out there that you just don't know are going to make an impact yet. And we're going to figure it all out together. So keep submitting your fantasy basketball questions too, as we're just getting our feet wet in the NBA fantasy season as well. Daily fantasy, whatever. Help me out. I'm still trying to get into the fantasy season. Not doing so great in daily fantasy this year so far, as far as spending my own money in daily fantasy in the NBA. But I would like to at least win enough money to pay off half my student loans. That would be great. So help me out. Maybe we can make that happen together. We can all win money together and pay off student loans together. That's my ultimate dream. That's my Christmas wish. So that's it for my co-host Dan Schalk. I am Brandon Reed. Check out the next My Fantasy podcast coming to you soon, and keep submitting the mailbag questions later. Peace.